Suniyey, Siddh Peer Surnath. Suniyey, Tarat Taval Akas. In these anks, Guru Nanak Dev Ji says Suniyey, by listening. Guruji says, by listening, we attain the status of Siddh. Suniyey, Siddh. A Siddh is a person who has vast spiritual powers. Suniyey, Siddh Peer. We attain the status of a Peer, or a great spiritual teacher. But what is Guru Nanak Dev Ji referring to? What should we listen to so that we can attain such high spiritual statuses? In the Sarang Ki Var, Guru Ramdas Ji explains, Naye Suniyey sab siddh hai, rid pichhe aave. By listening to God's name, we attain the status of a Siddh. And what is the sign of a Siddh? Rid pichhe aave. A Siddh attains vast spiritual powers. But this all happens, as Guru Ramdas Ji explains, through listening to God's name. Naye Suniyey no nid mile, man chindya paave. By listening to God's name, we attain the 9 spiritual treasures and man chindya paave. Whatever our mind desires, we attain. This is the power of listening to God's name. But Guruji tells us that true listening is very difficult. Akhan Oka. The first step is to recite God's name with the tongue. This is difficult. Akhan Oka. Sunna Oka. Listening to what we are reciting with our lips is even more difficult. We may be reciting God's name with our lips, but our mind is wandering. Our mind is not focused on what we are saying. This is not true listening. True listening can only happen when the mind is silent. This is how we attain the vast spiritual states. Suniyey Siddh Peer Surnath. Sur means an angel. By listening to God's name, we become, or we attain the status of an angel. We become a Nath, or spiritual master. Suniyey Tarat Taval Akas. By listening to God's name, we become conscious of God's spirit throughout all the land and throughout all the sky. Suniyey Deep Lo Patal. By listening to God's name, we become conscious of God's spirit throughout the ocean, throughout all the worlds, and throughout even the underworlds, throughout the Patal. Suniyey Pohe na sakkai kal. If we truly listen to God's name, then Kal, or death, will never be able to reach us. Pohe na sakkai kal. Death will never reach us. Nanak Bhagtan Sada Vigas, Suniyey Dukh Paap Ka Nas. Guru Nanak Dev Ji says the Bhagats, or God's devotees who are listening to God's name, are in a state of Sada Vigas. Vigas is a very beautiful word. Vigas means to blossom. Now normally when we observe a flower blossom, it blossoms and then it reaches the state of being open. Sada Vigas is a constant state of blossom. It is a never-ending process of blossoming. There are constantly new heights of contentment. There are new heights of attainment. There is never a dull moment. This is what Sada Vigas means. And Suniyey Dukh Paap Ka Nas. By listening to God's name, all dukh, or all pain, leaves, and Paap Ka Nas, all of our past sins are erased. In the next anks, Guruji explains even more the benefits of true listening. Suniyey Isar Barma Ind. By listening, we attain the status of such gods as Isar, Brahma and Indra. Suniyey mukh salahan man. By listening to God's name, even those who are mande or mand come to truly praise God. Suniyey jog jugat tan ped. In our everyday lives, on TV and in advertisements, we hear about yoga or jog. There are many classes that try to teach us the methods of yoga. But Guru Nanak Dev Ji says, Suniyey jog jugat tan ped. By truly listening to God's name, we attain all methods of yoga. Listening to God's name is the true yoga, jog jugat, the method of yoga. And we also achieve tan ped, or the secrets of the body. Suniyey Sast, Simrat, Ved. By listening to God's name, the spiritual knowledge of the Sastra, the spiritual knowledge of the Simritis, and the spiritual knowledge of the Vedas comes to reside within. Guruji again emphasizes, Nanak, Bhagtan Sada Vigas, Suniyey Dukh Paap Ka Nas. Guruji says, Suniyey Sat Santokh Gyan. By listening, we attain truth, contentment, and spiritual knowledge. Suniyey At Sat Ka Isnan. By listening to God's name, we attain the benefits of bathing at all At Sat, 68 sites of pilgrimage. Suniyey Pad Pad Pave Man. By truly listening to God's name, we read our inner selves. We attain inner intuition. Pad Pad, we read our inner selves, and as a result, Pave Man, we attain the true honor. Suniyey Lagge Sahaj Dhyan. By listening to God's name, we steadily learn the way of dhyan, or the way of concentration. Nanak Bhagtan Sada Vigas, Suniyey Dukh Paap Ka Nas. Suniyey Sarang Guna Ke Ga. When we listen to God's name, all of God's virtues in the wholesale come to reside within. Suniyey Sekh Peer Patisa. By listening to God's name, we attain the status of such holy people as Sheikh, of Peer or spiritual teachers, and of Patisa, or we attain the status of a true emperor. Suniyey Ande Pave Ra. By listening to God's name, even those who are spiritually blind find the spiritual path. Suniyey Hath Hove Asga. By listening to God's name, the unapproachable becomes approachable. Guruji emphasizes for a last time, Nanak Bhagtan Sada Vigas, Suniyey Dukh Paap Ka Nas. In a previous Ank, we learned that Gaviye, sing God's name. Suniyey, listen to God's name. Mane rakhiye pao, and do this with love. Guruji then said, Dukh parhar, all pain will leave the body, and sukh kar la jaye, only happiness will reside within. Through these anks, Guruji tells us the importance of listening. Without listening, we cannot remove pain. Without listening, reciting does not bear fruit. When we recite God's name with full concentration and listening completely with our ears, then this becomes dhyana. Guruji says, Jini naam tyaya. But what is the sign of dhyana? Ik man, ik chit, with one focused attention. Reciting God's name with listening to it with complete attention is dhyana. In the Lama, Guru Ram Das Ji explains in the first Lam, or in the first state of spiritual progression, Taram Dirdo Haranam Dhyavo. Learn the true path of religion and recite God's name with full concentration. We can only recite God's name with full concentration if we learn the technique of Sunnah or listening to God's name. And this is the first step in the Lama. The next 4 anks talk about Manana. Now there is a reason why Manana comes after Sunnah. Manana is a higher spiritual state than Sunnah. This is why Manana comes in the second Lam by Guru Ram Das Ji. But let's sing the next 4 anks on Manana.